Hello! Today we are weaving a vase in Burkina Faso style. We continue the topic started in the previous master classes. Today I'd like to say a few words on how to shape curves using this technique, convexities and concavities. I'm going to weave such a vase. At first I'd like to make some widening. When I start weaving vertically right after the bottom, then I'm going to narrow it. In the earlier tutorials I've already shown you how to weave the very beginning. For example, you can watch the previous video on hat weaving. So let's keep it instead of spending much time on repetition. I've made a workpiece of 4 rows. Now I'm going to start raising the poles. Since the vase is going to get narrow toward the top, let's cut off the tube tails. It would be much more difficult to get inside the vase after I leave the poles. So I propose you to cut the tails from the inside. As I've already mentioned, we don't use any glue when weaving, which is one of the main attractions of this weaving technique. No glue, no lengthening. However, you'll have to spend some time on such trimming later, both from inside and outside. First of all, let me tell you of the system I've developed for tube adding when weaving a flat bottom. I've made all the same steps as in hat weaving. In the first row I was adding 2 tubes at a time. I was bending one tube into halves and engaging both halves into weaving. In the second row I was adding new tube after every second existing pole. In the third row after every third pole, in the fourth row after every fourth one. As a result, I'm getting quite a smooth bottom like this. Following this algorithm when weaving vertically, since I'm going to widen the shape, in the first row I'm planning to add new tubes after every 5 existing one. This way, I will keep the weaving from tightening and will make it widening. Let me show you what I mean. So, here is the row starting point. It is where the tubes meet. Opposite to it, I start raising the poles in the technique you're already familiar with. One tube, adjoin the second one, 2, adjoin the third one, 3, adjoin the fourth, 4, the fifth one, 5. Now add a new pole. Just attach it. One, 2. Count 5 tubes again. 2, 1, 2, 3. Here is the fourth tube. This is the fifth one. My aim is to make the widening shape more or less smooth. However, what I like about this weaving style is that the resulting item is not perfectly smooth. For some reason it appeals to me. Such items look more natural. What I like about such willow woven works is their wildness. Let's count. The protruding added tubes are clearly seen and easy to count. We'll cut them off later. Let's add one more tube and you will catch the idea. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm adding a new tube. I weave the whole row like this. I'd like the shape to be a bit roundish. So in the following row I'm going to add tubes, but this time after every 6th pull. This way I'm widening the shape. It is the way the work looks at the stage of widening. I've woven 2 rows. I'm going to weave the third row widening, then 1 row straight, and then start narrowing. I'd like to modify the shape a bit to avoid identical vases. So let's try and see what we'll get. 2 rows have been woven. In the first row I was adding tubes after every 5 pulls, in the second one after every 6 pull, in the third row I'm going to add new pulls after every 7 existing pulls. Let me show you the way I lengthen the tube. When I see the tube is too short, I just adjoin a new one. I like this way of lengthening very much. No glue. One more time. The tube is getting too short. I'm bending it and adjoining a new one. Take the following pole. Got it. And continue weaving. A short tail again. Place a new tube onto it. Bend the previous pole and lead the lower tube down. Here I'm going to lengthen the tube too. 1, 2. Now I'm adding a new pole for widening. I mean, I don't take the next existing pole, but I engage an additional new pole into work instead. It's time to count. In the first row I was adding new tubes after every 5 ones. In the second row after 6 existing poles. Now after every 7 poles. Here I've added a new pole. Now let's count 7 poles from it. Try your best to direct the weaving toward yourself to make sure you are widening the shape, not deforming it sideways. So, this one is bent. Here it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where is it? Let's check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Take an additional pole for widening. The current row is the last widening one. 1, 2. Let's lengthen a short tail. Adjoin a normal existing pole. Continue weaving. 7 existing poles more, after which I add a new one. And so on, weaving the third row. So I woven 3 rows widening, 1 row straight, without adding or reducing the number of tubes for rounded shape. Now I've started narrowing the weaving. Well, actually it's up to you. You're free to try different options. As for me personally, I'd like the narrowing to be gradual, after every 7 poles. If you look here, you can see that I've interwoven 2 poles together, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, after which I've adjoined the next pole to the 7th one and interwoven them doubled. I'll show you the way I do. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now it's time to decrease the number of poles. I'm adjoining a vertical pole as usual, cutting the tail a bit. I cut the pole right away, cause it would be difficult to get it later from the inside. So I adjoin 2 vertical poles at a time and interweave them. 1, 2. I interweave the 6 more poles, lengthening short tails, just the way I usually do. At this stage I lengthen the poles quite often. So 1 more time. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, it's not the best example to show because of too much lengthening, but that's okay. Sometimes you can weave with no lengthening for quite a while, but at times you face many points of lengthening in sequence. Don't be distracted by these protruding tails. They'll all get cut off, and the weaving will look nicer and neater than it looks now. So let's check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here are 2 tails to lengthen. Take the 7th pole, cut the 1st pole, adjoin the 2nd. It is the way I reduce the number of poles, and press with the next coil carefully. Continue weaving without any reduction. Let me show you once again. 1, 2. Here I can't avoid lengthening. Well, actually I can make use of the one I've cut off earlier. It is long enough. So 2, 3, 4, Let's check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here is the fifth one. Six. So the seventh pole. Try the seventh one to the row, cut the excessive tail right away, adjoin the neighboring pole to it, and interweave the double tubes together. This way I reduce the number of poles. Further, I continue weaving spirally, making every seventh coil of a doubled pair of tubes. This way I'm narrowing the shape gradually and raising the vase till the required height. The vase height is approximately equal to the height of a glass bottle to be put inside. I will show you when we reach the point. So, I've woven 7 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, reducing the number of poles in every 7th stitch, and 2 more rows almost without any reduction. The key reference point is such a glass bottle. It is easy to put inside. The vase is a bit higher than the bottle to make the bottle invisible, but the main thing is to fit the size to be able to place it inside. Now I'm finishing the last row, gradually bringing the distance between the rows to naught. Finish weaving this way. As you can see, the distance there was bigger, then it is getting smaller and smaller. This way I'm gradually bringing the last row closer to the previous one, in order to finish the item more or less smoothly. Well, you want to get it perfectly smooth anyway, but to my mind this weaving style doesn't presuppose perfect smoothness. Take a look, please. Well, it's hard to judge so far because of these tails protruding. But anyway, you can see that the vase is artistically irregular shaped. After you have brought the last row to nothing, just tuck the remaining tails in the previous row, like we usually do in traditional weaving. Just tuck in carefully. And the second one in the same very way. Hide in the previous row. We'll cut off the remainder later. Based on my experience, I usually follow such a sequence. When the item has been woven, I coat it with lacquer, and after the varnish runs dry, I cut the tails off. Why? In order to be able to modify the item shape. Before the tails have been cut, with your gloves on, you can still smoothen the shape a bit if you'd like to. Well, you can cut the tails at first and then coat them, but in this case you wouldn't be able to reshape it much since the tubes can easily slide out. The process of cutting is very simple. In this case I've decided to do without any edging to avoid making the item too heavy. We've already discussed the possible types of edge trimming for this weaving style. In my case I'm just cutting the tails as close to the edge as possible. As a result, I'm getting such a top. Now trimming. I'm cutting the tails protruding right up. In my case, the tubes are light colored, and the cuts are not too striking. If you weave a darker item, after you cut the tails, it is very important to coat the stumps with one more layer of the same paint you painted the tubes with. So take care to leave some painting solution for this purpose. Well, I'm going to coat my vase once again too, but in my case it is not too important, because the color of tubes from inside and outside is identical, and there will be no light spots. When I was weaving a brown vase, it was quite essential. That's all. Cut the last tails and you get a trimmed vase looking like this. As a result, I've got such a vase. Let me show you all my experiments once again. All the vases woven in Burkina Faso style. First of all, I'd like to show you that in this weaving style you can create a vase of any shape. You can widen or narrow the shape, any option you can think of. This weaving technique makes it quite easy.